critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters 5-minute rant. We are back and I'm hosting tonight with my good pal Pete Davey. Hello, Pete.
Evening.
You good, mate?
All good. Other than a very difficult 45 minutes yesterday, I'm feeling great, mate. But I'm sure we'll get into it very, very shortly. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, all good. Yeah, feeling a bit the same as you, to be honest, Pete. You know, feeling a bit dejected, but looking forward to doing these rants. And I must admit, I didn't think I'd be doing a rant in the week one. But maybe some people are going to come on with some positive thoughts. So hopefully,
it feels good to be back, though.
It does.
We've had our summer off, rant free. Well, maybe not.
Ish.
But,
yeah.
But no, it feels good to be back.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And it feels like we're back on loads of mag, doesn't it?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, without further ado, we've got a guest waiting, someone who you may all recognise. So, big welcome to Keith. Hello, Keith.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Pete, Chris.
How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'll just start by saying, you know, from Saturday night, obviously on our lead show, what a difference a day makes. You know, the song, you know, 24 little hours, and, you know, come 4 o'clock yesterday, I come 3:45 yesterday, how flat I was, basically. You know, I just couldn't believe it. We're all positive, just thinking, you know, of the game last week, but that yesterday for me was the worst. I've known Newcastle in the Premier League for an opening game of the season.
Yeah.
To be at home, to be 2-1 up at half time, and to lose the game, it just felt like that was, you know, going back to the bad days of last season. You know, sort of the game management for me. And I pulled up a stat last night on the show, and again on Steve's show there just earlier. Bruce now has lost 8 times from winning positions in the Premier League alone. I also looked back over at Rafa Benitez as well. I know we shouldn't keep looking back, but I looked at Benitez for 2 seasons as well for comparison. He'd only done it 3 times from games from a winning position, so that concerns me. And also as well, the rate that the team is shipping goals, particularly at home. It brought back memories of not only Leeds 5 and Newcastle 2, but the Man United game, where Newcastle were leading 1-0 and it was a draw until like the last 5-10 minutes last year.
Yeah.
And where they shipped it. So that was one of my concerns. And again, it just felt, I know the Willock signing, but it just felt like a bump to earth, like a reality check. You know, we need more than Willock. You put Willock in the side, or Willock gets injured, or ASM gets injured. The team is too thin on the ground. And as well, there's nobody off the bench, it feels, that can make an impact, because he clearly doesn't like Dwight Gale. Whatever Gale's done to him, and Gale, whenever he's played, I know he hasn't really had a long spell, but he had that spell at the end of the season before last, and he got 5 goals in 7 games. And against West Brom, he got the winner. So for some reason, he's not playing Gale. And for me, it feels like, again, something wrong at the club. He's not making the decisions. Somebody above him is making the decisions again. We know who it is. And it's a case of, right, he has a business decision. You're not going to go for free. We're not allowing a player to go for free. And giving him a contract. And it's just not making sense at all, because we can see, I mean, Gale might be Premier League class, but he's proven he can make a difference against the lower Premier League clubs when he's came on. So it just leaves you a bit flabbergasted, really. And again, the fitness, I know we shouldn't play too much into the pre-season, but West Ham had a strong pre-season. You know, they went to Celtic Park and won 6-2.
Yeah.
In front of fans at Celtic Park as well. So when Newcastle, I think only really the second half in the Norwich game in the pre-season today, you know, it come together and things start to click. So Newcastle didn't have a strong pre-season. And again, I just think again, some of the players yesterday. Yes, you know, you don't want to criticise too much, but again, Shelby had a strong first. He had a good first half, you know, pinging the balls, and again, Richie set up for the goal, the cross for the goal, but it just felt like in the second half the team started to struggle right across the board, and again, it was quite frustrating because there were key moments, and when obviously West Ham equalised, and then obviously the quick fire third goal, it just felt like Newcastle went to pieces very quickly. There was no response at any of those key moments.
Yeah. No, you make some really good points, Keith, and it was definitely a game of two halves, wasn't it? That's certainly how it felt. And you know, I'd say for a good 40 minutes of the second half, we just disappeared, didn't we? We just fell off. What are your thoughts on what Keith's had to say, Pete?
Again, Keith, always spot on with the points that you've made. Yeah, I couldn't help but feel at the beginning of the game, even before kickoff, that there was a real feel-good factor around the stadium. The atmosphere from TV looked really, really good. And then, you know, I do feel that Newcastle, for once, played a stroke of genius, really, by unveiling Willock to the stadium just before kickoff, and he got on fantastic sort of you know, rapturous applause, and rightly so. And I really think it got the crowd bouncing. So when the players came out, they were bang up for it, and I think it told. But you made some really good points about a number of things, in particular the fitness. Now, it was so telling in the second half that when they came out for the second half, that some of the players out there were done. They were completely done. And within 5 or 10 minutes, you could see that a couple of subs needed to be made. You know, noticeably, Shelby, who didn't have a bad game, he was just tired. And bearing in mind he'd not had a pre-season, that was a big effect of that. Anisette Maximin, after about 65 minutes, was clearly finished in terms of what he could give to the game. Matt Ritchie, and I'm sure others will talk about Matt Ritchie on this show today, was really, really disappointing. You could tell he did look, you know, well out of pace of the Premier League football. So again, really, really disappointed all round. More so than anything, I was disappointed with the lack of fight at 4-2. You know, at 4-2, you would expect us, being the home team, to really go out and try and go again, but we just didn't have it in us. And that was a disappointing thing for us.
I don't understand if it was last season or at the end of the other season where there were no fans at all, you know, an empty arena where, you know, teams were basically taking it to Newcastle and loving it, to be honest, coming to an empty St. James's Park. But when you've got an atmosphere like you had yesterday, you touched on there before, the feel-good factor of Willock getting unveiled and everything, the atmosphere, and when the goals went in. But for the teams not to tap into that, the fighting spirit on your first game of the season. I mean, let's be real, West Ham did have a strong season last year. They had a strong finish, finishing 6th. But really, you know, you're going to face tougher challenges like that. I mean, you know, your Man Uniteds, your Chelseas, your Man Uniteds, Man Cities, they'll go goals up in the first 10 minutes. What are you going to do then? And even Arsenal, Newcastle always struggle against Arsenal. And if Arsenal were to go a goal or so up, that psychologically, a mentality thing, there is an improved leadership. Wilson's shown leadership, but on the pitch at key moments, where is it? It's just like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
I've got a question for you guys. Who do you realistically think that Newcastle can get in the window after Willock? I mean, not even names, but what positions do you think that Newcastle will actually strengthen in the window?
Chris, I'll let you take this.
It's
a great question, Keith. It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question from Keith. I've said this before, Keith, on another show I do called Loads and Mag. I've said recently on that show that I believe we need a new striker as a backup for Callum Wilson, but an upgrade on Dwight Gale. I think we need a defensive midfielder, and as Liam Kennedy's already said on this show, you know, we do need a pacey centre back. Now, if you were to push me for the two players that I'd like, or the two positions I'd like out of those three, I would say that the biggest need for me is the striker and the defensive midfielder. I think we can probably get by with the centre backs, albeit I do acknowledge that we do need another centre back. But if we've only got 2 loan signings to make, and I'm assuming they're going to be loan signings, I can't see us paying any money out. I would assume that we're going to go with a striker and a defensive mid, or certainly that's what I would go for. What about you, Pete?
I'd have to agree. Being as quickly as I possibly can, I think the fact that 65 minutes there was nothing left in Wilson and Alan St-Maximin's tank said a lot. When we needed to kick on again, like I mentioned before, we didn't have that person that we could trust coming off of the bench to make a difference. I thought it was the wrong decision out of the two. Gale should have come on and not Joe Linton. Joe Linton doesn't feel anyone with confidence, let alone the players that he's playing with on the pitch. And that's not sounding, I'm not trying to sound disrespectful. I think it's just a clear fact that when he comes on for Callum Wilson, it effectively tells the players on the pitch that the game's done. So we need someone, and for me, there's no one better than potential free transfer of Solomon Rondon, who could come in and really, he could have impacted the game and changed that for the better for us. Someone like that coming on. It was also clear to see that we needed a defensive midfielder, someone that can break the play up and keep things ticking over. We've been linked with Boubacar Kamara, who's a talented young player, French under 21s international. He's going to cost a little bit of money, although he's got a year left on his contract. I would definitely take him. I've not even got into that back three. And I don't want to get into that back three because I could be talking about them a long time. But
there's only so much you can cover. I mean, you touched on there. I agree. I mean, the defensive midfielder, it's an issue. I think it's been at the club a while now, since certainly the likes of Mo Diarmi, and before that, the late great Cheick Tiote. Not been at the club really. You need somebody who's just going to mess things up in the game and just break things down, break the opposition down. There's no intimidation factor in that midfield for me at the minute.
Yeah. No, Keith. Listen, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry to push you along. It's just we've got a couple of guests waiting, and I want to hear from those two guests. But Keith, as always, thank you so much, mate. And you're going to get one of these for that. Fantastic, mate. Keith, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up soon.
Take care.
Take care.
Just super quick. Just want to go through some of the comments on the screen. Got to start with this one. John Justice Allen, hope you're doing well, mate. And I spoke to you again today. Glad to know that you're getting better. Great to see you on the chat as always. Tom Lynch. Felt great to be back inside and near full St James's Park, going to the match, the crowd, the routine normality. Yeah, but so many have said the same, that we're lucky enough to be there. It is great just to be back. Even just me going to the pre-season friendlies, it was just great to be back inside the stadium. Absolutely spot on, 100%. Yano, I'm not saying we get these players, but if you can put anyone, Van Dijk, Calvin Phillips, Fabinho in our side, would be transformed.
Great
shout. I tell you what, I'd take any one of them right now.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. Got John Justice Allen again. Rondon and Kamara would transform this side. I would 100% agree with you on that. More comments to come. But there were just a few that's come out. Whack your comments in there. And what I really liked, actually, which might be a good one for the weeks to come, is that the guys that come on, if you've got a question for us at the end of your chat, nice way to finish that off. More than happy to answer your questions as they come along.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it's time for guest number 2, and that's Seb. Evening, Seb.
Hi guys.
How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, guys. Thoughts on yesterday's game. I'm not just going to quote what Danny Murphy said on Match of the Day, but he did say that even though we lost, we actually played okay. The first half wasn't too disappointing. Yeah, it was good to go 1-0 up, but it wasn't too bad yet. We conceded 3 goals, and when we went 4-2 down, we were never coming back. And I just think personally, if you look at the first 6 games, then the fixture list is actually okay. So it's disappointing to lose the first game, but I think that's why we need to act quickly in this transfer window, because if out of the first 6 games we can get points from them, and if we can get a couple of loan signings in, that's a very real possibility. I'm not expecting us to spend any money, and I do believe I've been saying on another group that Rondon a free agent.
He basically, I think he went on loan to someone in Russia, and I think because China have got a wage cap now, they need to get him off the books, and I think they're willing to have him go as a free transfer just to get rid of him. So yeah, I think he can be potentially bought as or brought in as a free transfer to a team, and I think he's looking to come back to the Premier League as well.
Exactly. He's said numerous times he would love to come back to Newcastle. He's only 31. Probably his wages won't be that high. He'll be perfect because Carroll's left, so we haven't actually we've got a spare space. Whereas if we're going to strengthen other areas of the team, yeah, we've lost Lejeune, so we do need a centre back, because there was that period towards the end of last season where all of our centre backs were injured, and then Paul Dummett came in and done really well. But that same scenario could happen again. We do need another centre back. We were meant to get Tuanzebe, but I think he went back to Villa because he's already been there. But yeah, in terms of this playing 3 at the back, it's not the worst thing in the world, because Shaw doesn't fit into a 2. When Shaw fits into a 2, he gets exposed. He can fill in for the odd game or 2 here, but I think if I was a manager, I'll target him and say, look, this guy's dodgy. He gives away yellow cards, free kicks. So I would say, look, just target Shaw, because he's a decent defender. He's a good ball player, but as a 2 in a centre back, he's a weak link. So yeah, we definitely need a centre back. In terms of a holding mid, I don't think we've got much space in the squad for centre mids, to be honest, because yeah, we've got Matt Longstaff. He hasn't gone out on loan, and if Hayden's fit, then he's going to play. I can't see us rotating him. I can see Shelvey being on his toes now, because now he knows that Willock's in the squad. Shelvey now knows that, look, he can't be complacent with all these Xavi Alonso passes. I think now he knows that he will sit on the bench.
Yeah.
So, but I do like Shelvey. I'm not a critic of Shelvey. Yeah, I just don't think we've got too much space in terms of activity players. In, we're going to have to move a midfielder out, whether it's Longstaff from loan. But I can't see any more centre mids coming in, because we've got Hendrick, the 2 Longstaffs, Shelvey, Willock. That's like 6 midfielders now. And even if we get rid of Matt Longstaff, that's 5. So where's the space for more midfielders? Unless we supposedly sell Sean Longstaff to Everton. I like him personally. I think he's young. I think he'll be a really good player in like 2 years. So I don't think we should sell him.
What do you think about the supposed swap deal with Tom Davis for Everton?
But why? What are we getting at? Why do we need to sell? Tom Davis isn't any better than Sean Longstaff. He may be a couple of years older and played a few more games, but if you look at it for his age, he's actually played a lot of games. And there was a period, I think, was it the last season or the year before, when we were playing the 2 Longstaffs in midfield. I'm not saying this is the answer, but when we were playing the 2 Longstaffs in midfield, I think in Rafa's last season, we were actually getting results.
Yeah.
So even if Shelvey or Hayden weren't playing, we were picking up wins and draws with them both starting. So
I think one thing you get from having both Longstaffs in the middle, Seb, it's a great point. The one thing you get from having both of them playing is you get legs, and
exactly.
they both get about the pitch. So that is a big plus of having the 2 Longstaffs in there. I mean, Pete, what do you think on Seb's comments? I think Seb's made some fantastic points. What are your thoughts on what he said?
Absolutely spot on with the points that he's made. Lots of really good points, going back to the Fabian Shaw argument. I 100% agree with you. He cannot play in the 2. I think the last time he played in the 2, I remember it was away at Leicester, and we lost 5-0, and he got absolutely rinsed that game. He was an absolute state. But with that, playing him in the back 3, it allows him to bring the ball out, which is what we want.
Exactly.
In that back 3. We want that ball playing centre back, and it allows him to do that, and it gives him cover from behind if he loses the ball. It's a great point about the midfield, and you're absolutely right. We're actually quite stocked in midfield, and and it will take someone like, you know, a Matty Longstaff to go out on loan, and he's been heavily linked with Derby. I know they've got their financial troubles, and I think Derby going out there and working with Ray Rooney would be a really good move for Matty Longstaff. He'd play every week. He's got some decent players around him, although they've got financial problems. They've still got some decent players that he could learn from. There's a question I was going to ask you, Seb. Do you think we'll sell Sean Longstaff in the next 2 weeks? Do you think we'll bite the bullet and get rid of him?
I don't see. I hope we don't, because I don't. What are we going to get for him? Are we going to get someone who's going to score goals? I don't see what we're going to get, because he's got energy. So if we sold Longstaff, which meant that we could bring in a designed defensive midfielder in Boubacar Kamara, would you take that? Because Boubacar Kamara, if you're not aware of him, he is designed as a defense. He's like a shield. He's a defensive midfielder. He sits and allows the other midfielders to press forward. If we could get someone like that in there that could maybe take Shelby out of that role and give us someone like a Tiote or someone in that mould, would you take that? Because I know you like Sean Longstaff. Would you take that as an alternative? Well, personally, in terms of a specialist holding midfielder, I mean, I think Hendrick's getting a free pass, because let's be honest, we all know he's dud and no one really wants him, but he's still taking up a space in the squad. Yeah. So if he's there, then he even needs to get coached and just say, look, you don't have the ability to do this, just lay off the ball. Why can't he just be coached to just be a holding midfielder and just sit and just not cross the halfway line? Because I'd rather coach Hendrick and keep Longstaff rather than sell Longstaff and keep Hendrick.
No, fair point.
Yeah. And also, sorry guys, sorry to hog up the chat.
No, go on, mate. No, go on.
If you look at our first 6 games, right? I honestly don't think losing to West Ham is too much to worry about. Villa away, Southampton at home, United away, we probably lose that. Leeds at home, Watford away. And if you look at the games up until week 19, they're actually quite well spaced out. We're not, I think we've got, I think I actually got it written down. We've got Spurs away on week 8, Chelsea away, Chelsea on week 10, Arsenal week 13, and then from week 16 we've got Leicester, Liverpool, City, and Man United 4 games in a row. So
it's that Christmas period, isn't it, Seb? As soon as we get to December, it's
exactly.
But
difficult. If you look at the first 19 games, especially the first 6, the fixtures, they've actually been spread out quite kind to us.
Yeah.
So if we acted quickly now, and we probably don't have space in the wide areas, but I remember we were linked with Lookman. I think it was last year, January, or the year before that. If you looked at him last year at Fulham went down, but he's got energy, he's got legs, and he could be a problem. I like Lookman. I prefer him to Fraser. I know Fraser's always injured, but Fraser's always got an excuse. He's injured for us, then he's playing for Scotland. And I just get the vibe that he's the type of person that just sulks when he doesn't start. So, and just the way he left Bournemouth, where he refused to play, I don't know. I'll put it this way: I'm willing to give him one more season, but I would say I'll be willing to, if he doesn't turn up or doesn't deliver anything, I'll be willing to see the back of Fraser. To be honest, I'd rather have someone like Lookman in the squad.
I'm a big fan of Lookman, Seb. I think Lookman looks a real player. I mean, I'm yet to reserve judgment on Fraser, because when he came in, I think we were all a little bit excited about it. I take your point about his conduct with Bournemouth. I didn't like that, but you know, you get a fresh, clean slate when you join. Last season didn't quite work out for him. I don't think he got enough game time. Although, albeit, I know what you mean about the excuses. They didn't look great, did they? And obviously, it looks like he's had some issues with the manager. Pete, what were you going to say, mate, about Fraser?
No, I think the 2 points that Seb's made again, I 100% agree with. Fraser's got a black cloud above his head after the way he left Bournemouth. That's really dented his reputation, particularly at the top clubs that were actually sniffing around him. So Arsenal, Tottenham, or whether you can consider them top clubs, who knows? But they were sniffing around him, and I think the way in which he left Bournemouth has probably stopped him from getting that move, which is why he's come to us. But it's put a black cloud around us as fans towards him, because we know he's already done that, and we're thinking, could he go and do that again? I do think you're right. We give him another season of regular football, uninterrupted with injuries, and see how he performs. I think he needs a run of games. I think, I did it. I said on our Loaded Mag preview, Chris, that I think, I'd have started him and Almiron with Shelby sitting in. I'd have dropped Hayden for this game, because we're at home, first game, and I want to see Fraser in that position. He's actually had a decent pre-season, to be fair, and I think he needs a run of games to really show us that he's capable of, one, being a first team regular, and two, that he's going to play at the level that we want, which is the reason why we brought him. Because if he plays at that level, with the levels of assist he can give us, the likes of St. Maximin and Wilson would thrive under that. But he needs to prove it to us. The other thing is that you're right about the fixtures, Seb. You're absolutely right. And the fixtures have been very, very kind to us, and not just who we've got in the first six and beyond, but the way in which they're spaced down.
Yeah.
The only concern that I have is that we've now got fans in the stadium, and the fans, Steve Bruce hasn't got a honeymoon anymore. He hasn't got a protection of no fans in the stadium, and I worry that if we don't beat or get something from Villa on Saturday, that the crowd are going to turn, and their away fans, and you guys will know, going to away games, that the away fans are a lot more rowdy, a lot more vocal than the home fans are. And I think if we lose, or potentially lose badly on Saturday, I think the tide could turn very, very quickly. And when the tide turns like that, I worry that it's going to then impact us on games in the weeks to come. The games, like you said, Seb, that we can win. But the mentality of the players starts to get affected. Bruce starts to get affected. The media start gathering around it. I worry that that's going to impact on games that we should be winning. So that's my only concern with that. But you're right, the fixtures are very, very sort of like positive for us.
Yeah.
Seb, can I just check? Is this your first time on the show?
Yes, yeah.
What a debut, mate. Excellent. Love to have you come back on, mate. Honestly, really enjoyed that, and well done, and thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No problem. No, see you soon, guys.
All right, take care.
Sure.
Later.
What a guest, Seb.
Great guy. I know Seb.
Get him? Did you get him? Yeah, I thought you might. I thought he was one of your mates. He knew his football.
We're on a WhatsApp chat together with a group of sort of down south Geordie fans, and he makes some great points always. So that wasn't a surprise to me at all.
No, top fella, really done well there. Now, Pete, before we go on to the comments, mate, I'm just going to plug the sponsors. So I hope I get this right, everyone. But yeah, I've got to go through our sponsors. So we have Spider VPN for all your technology. Spider VPN will be there. If you're having any internet issues, they're the guys to go to. They've been a sponsor on the show for quite a while now. So yep, Spider VPN. Shout out to you lads. Thank you very much. We then have skipsandbins.com. Skips and Bins again. They've been here now for a good few weeks, I think. Telephone number 0800 25 45 25 free. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website address www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay as you go waste collection. We also have the fantastic John Justice Allen at qtechshop.co.uk. Big shout out to John. Really appreciate you watching tonight, mate, and look forward to catching up soon. We also have Jab Signature, who make all of the flyers for the show. We also have L&G Family Funeral Directors. Give them a phone call on 0191 389 7245. We then have Davin Baldwin Funerals, Independent Funeral Directors. You can find them at 304 Old Drummond Road, Gateshead, NE8 4BQ. Telephone number 0191 478 2730, or email Davin at davinbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Also, Davin's website address is www.davinbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. And the last one I've got, Newcastle Legends. Please don't forget to like, comment, and share, and also subscribe. last couple of bits actually I'm going to mention before we move on. So you can find our NUFC Matters shows on iTunes or Spotify. So don't forget, you can listen to them if you go out for a walk or you're just out and about. It's always good to catch up on iTunes or Spotify. Also, we've got some things coming up. So Newcastle Legends, it's Steve Rafe and Newcastle Legends present an evening with the likes of John Anderson, Kevin Scott, Will Fox, Steve Howie, Keith Gillespie, Liam O'Brien, Darren Peacock, John Beresford, and Malcolm MacDonald, or as we all affectionately know him as, Super Mac. And the compere for the night is going to be John Gibson, and the comedy will be from. Yeah, John.
I'll be there for
you're
that
going,
one.
aren't you, mate? Yeah, you're
Yeah,
there.
I'll be there for that one. Traveling up for the weekend. Really looking forward to meeting some of the guys, meeting some of the ex-players as well. Cannot wait for that. So anyone that's not got a ticket, I think there might be a few left still, get involved because I think it's going to be a great night.
Yeah, I'm hoping to come myself, Pete, as well. It's yet to be confirmed, but I'm hoping I'll be able to come up, mate. And finally, which we've got coming up in a few days, there's still some tickets for the Farmhouse Kitchen presenting an evening with Super Mac and Steve Rafe. And that is on the 19th of August from 7 p.m. Tickets are a tenner, so keep a lookout for those as well. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, got there in the end. And you know what? In the chat, some fantastic comments. I'll go to Tom Lynch again. We need another striker. We need another centre back, emphasising the need. I agree with you. It doesn't seem like we'll get one either. I do think that we'll do some business late in the window. I do think that we will get what we need in the end. Dino 84, given what happened yesterday, I think we'll beat Villa. Look, I may have been sort of negative about the fact that we could lose and what the reaction might be, but actually looking at some of our attacking play, we could cause Villa some problems. You look at how they played against Watford and how Watford tore them apart. I think we've got a better attacking line than Watford. So I think we could cause them problems. It's our mentality and how we approach the game that I think will make the difference. But it's a great point from Dino. Dino, again, we need a holding midfielder, striker and a centre-back. I'm inclined to agree with you. Mag Mark, we see him unloaded as well. Good man. I'm surprised Chris didn't use his own excuse that we scored too early yesterday. I'll be honest with you, Mark, I did think that when Wilson put the goal in. It did run through my mind after I'd been running around the room screaming that we'd gone 1-0 up. I did worry about that because, again, it's something that we've seen a number of times. Some more in there. Yano, Joe Linton is a good player in my opinion. Everyone's got an opinion and rightly so can voice that. I think that there's a role to play for Joe Linton, but certainly not as a starter, in my opinion. Rondon and Kamara would transform the side. Yeah, we said that already. I agree with that. And Martin Colley, Rondon, Kamara, Williams. Not a lot of people have talked about him recently. Zetro Williams, and a young centre back with pace on loan, maybe Kurt Zuma. I'd love him. I don't think we'd be able to get him though. 2 frees, 1 loan, and a purchase. I tell you what, that'd be one hell of a window if we
Job done.
Get them in there. Get us in the top 8. Martin, great shout. I'll leave the comments there, but keep them coming in. Any questions for us? I'll just put in from Dunhill. Good point, Seb. Seb was absolutely spot on with his views tonight. Keith as well, who was on earlier. Seb is spot on. Rondo would be a great signing. He scores goals at Newcastle. I worry that Steve Bruce's ego would get in the way, bringing in an ex-Rafa Newcastle United player. I agree with that, Keith. It's a great point. And the last one, just very quickly, Chris and Pete, what would you do with the Longstaffs? Chris, good question.
Mine's nice and quick. I think I answered this on Loaded Mag the other night. For me, I would loan out Matty and I would sell Sean. Sounds harsh, but I would. I think going forwards we need to move on from Sean Longstaff. I just don't think, since he's had that injury, and whether there's a problem in the backroom staff, I don't know. But maybe it's time to let Sean go. And with Matty, if we do loan him out, I'd want to give him an extension to his contract. Whether he'd sign one or not, I don't know, because he's only got a year left. So it could be that we get rid of the two of them. I don't know. But I don't see a future. I really don't. Under Bruce, I don't see a future for either of them.
I'm inclined to agree with you. A mid-table championship team, I would loan Matty to, providing that he signed an extension, a little bit like Freddie Woodman did in the last couple of years. If not, I'd move him on. And yet, Sean Longstaff, unfortunately, I'd see him gone. If it meant that we could get someone like Kamara in, who is a 21-year-old talented player, and if he didn't have a year left on his contract, he'd be going for 35, 40 million. But if we could get him, I think we could get him for between 15 and 17 million on a cheap deal, and he's someone that we'd be able to transform on midfield. And I would risk selling someone like Longstaff, who's a decent player, to fund that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I
Great
agree
comments.
with you. Yeah, absolutely. We have our third guest of the evening. Big welcome to Kieran. Hello, Kieran.
How are we doing, boys? All right?
I'm all right, mate. How are you? So
All
sorry,
right.
so sorry you've been waiting there, mate. Thank you very much for
no
your
problem.
patience.
No problem.
Really appreciate it.
It's no
So,
problem.
Kieran, I can't wait to hear this, mate.
Well, it's not really a rant, but it's I've seen a few people on social media like they're talking about we conceded 4 goals yesterday, and in 3 out of the 6 games in pre-season we couldn't keep a clean sheet. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but do you think this season the question is going to be how many goals we can see rather than how many goals we score? Do you think that's my concern? Conceding 4 goals against West Ham's a worry, isn't it? Really,
it is a worry, Kevin. You're absolutely right. And when you're leaking goals at the back, it means you've got to score more up top. I mean, our front pairing of St. Maximin and Wilson, to be fair, it's easily 9, 10, 11, 12 best in the league for me. Wilson and St. Maximin up front. But they must have been looking back at times and thinking, come on, we're doing our job here. We need you to defend. We need you, to keep it tight at the back. I think you said it on Loaded Mag, Pete. You said the other night, they're going to be looking backwards and thinking, hang on, we're doing our job. Fingers are going to get pointed, and they're going to be pointed, I would say, at the defensive midfield and the defence. And then obviously you've got the problem with Woodman as well, which I know we discussed in a bit of detail. But what do you think on Kieran's comment there, Pete?
It's a great point. It almost feels like if you think over the last 3 or 4 years, including a little bit of Rafa Benitez's tenure, it's kind of like roles reversed now going into this season. Like Kieran's mentioned, it's like, in my opinion, I'm looking at our front line and I'm looking at Murphy bombing on. I'm looking at Willock arriving late in the box. I'm looking at Maxi tearing things up and Wilson just hungry for goals. And I'm thinking, we could score some goals this season. You look at our attempts in the game yesterday. We probably had more attempts in that game than we had in maybe 3 or 4 games span last season. We looked like we could create problems for 60 minutes of that game. Okay, the last part of the game we didn't really create anything, but before then we did. And I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe scoring goals is not the problem this year. Maybe it's roles reversing. Now we're worried about actually how many we're going to concede. So it's a great point. And it's almost like, we're a little bit unbalanced again. Like if you think the last 3 or 4 years we've been so balanced from a defensive aspect that we've had defenders that we know can defend and be solid and keep clean sheets or keep the goals down, but we've always struggled to score goals up front. Now we've improved the forward line. It's like some of those guys that were defending a little bit too old now, or a little bit past their prime, and maybe we need to move them on. Line, like you said. So you know what? It's an absolutely spot on point, Kieran. And they're just my points on it. But
I've seen the links to like Carter Vickers, and for me that's a no-brainer. I would get him in. I watched Bournemouth towards the end of last season, and he was their standout player. And I think he's got pace. He can play out from the back, and I would definitely do that deal. And I think there's 1 or 2 rumours going around about the lad Sessegnon from Tottenham, Ryan Sessegnon, the left back. So perhaps they're going to be looking for a left back, because Richie was poor, really poor yesterday, I thought, second half. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with it.
Do you think we could tempt Tottenham with a permanent bid for Carter Vickers? I mean, he's only a young lad, isn't he? I don't know how much he'd be going for, but
yeah, I think you know what I think we could. I think there's been rumours about a £10 million sort of price tag for him. So there's no reason why you can't. You know, there's moan about there's definitely money there. It's just actually, you know, he's like, don't want to spend it, but I think they can definitely do a deal there. I know he enjoyed the spell down at Bournemouth last season, so I'm not so sure if he would prefer to go there or come to us. But we'll see when we.
There, as far as I'm aware, and I think there's United, because he's a United States international. There was a journalist on social media today that was talking about that. There's apparently been no bids, but Tottenham are talking to both Bournemouth and Newcastle with regards to a deal for Carter Vickers. Whether that gets done soon or not, whether we're front runners or whether we're just tentatively asking the question, I don't know. The Sessegnon deal interests me. Because you know you're looking for pace, you're looking for trickery, you're looking for creativity. I don't know if you guys remember in the Championship season when Fulham came to St James's Park.
He was brilliant, wasn't he?
He scored a hat-trick that day and like single-handedly tore Newcastle to shreds. He looked outstanding, but he's never really kicked on.
No, he hasn't.
And maybe, you know, I knew it at the time. I didn't think Sessegnon's move to Tottenham was the right move, and it's proven so. He's never going to make it there, and that's not through his own abilities, through the fact that they're not going to give him a chance. So it's an interesting move, that. Personally, you know, I would want the here and now, so I'd probably go for Zetro if we could get his visa. But if not, he'd be an interesting option as that wing back. He can play it. He can play that role. Interesting one.
Definitely.
Great points.
What's your thoughts on Woodman? Because I'm not so sure. I watched the game for Swansea towards the back end last season, and I thought, no, I'm not so sure he's ready for the Premier League. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are. But there's a lot of people saying yesterday that he didn't look right. Perhaps he's out of his depth.
Based on what I saw yesterday, Kieran, I have concerns over how he manages his area, his box.
Well, we touched on that on the match day, didn't we? We said that on that's what's been the bit of a talking point, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. It's the commanding of the area for me. And being, you know, the stature, having the stature to, you know, scream and shout. I'll give him a pass this time because it was his debut, and you know, 50,000 in the stadium must have been nerve-wracking. I'm not denying that, but for me, if someone was to say to me now, based on what I've seen, and you've got to pick someone to go through for the next 6, 7, 8 games, and you said, right, do you want to start Darlow or Woodman next game? I'd probably go with Darlow based on what I saw, but. Maybe you know we need to give him that little bit of leeway. Obviously, we've got the away game coming up against Villa. Maybe the pressure will be off a little bit more for them then. I don't know. Maybe we'll see a different Woodman. Maybe someone's going to have a word with him this week. But based on what I saw, I've got a little bit of concern. I've got to admit. What about yourself, Pete?
Yeah, as I said on the sort of the loaded review, the main concern to me is presence. With Woodman and how, like you guys said, how he commands the box. Now, his presence is not necessarily coming out and collecting balls. It's how he commands his back line. So there was one thing that really stuck out for me, and it happened a few times in the first half, in that Antonio was sitting on Woodman for corners, and Federico Fernandez, our best header of the ball in the team, was standing with him. And wasn't the one attacking the ball as it came into the box, which is what he normally does. Now, a goalkeeper with presence would say, get out, swap with Kraft, you go out there and attack the ball so it's stopping it coming our way. And it's stuff like that I see Dubravka doing on a daily basis in the team that he hasn't done. Now, that may come with a little bit of experience. It's his first Premier League game. So, you know, you're willing to kind of give him, you know, the benefit of the doubt. But there were some concerns there because although it's his first Premier League game and you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, we as a club haven't got any room to kind of mess around. We need points and we need them now. We need to get to that 40-point mark as soon as possible. So we haven't got an opinion. We haven't got the option of kind of playing around and giving people time to bed in. But you know, I was always confident with the penalty, if I'm honest, because he's a penalty saving specialist. He was very, very unlucky. His teammates let him down.
Your teammates let him down. Yeah.
And other than that, if you think about it, it's really weird because he conceded 4 goals, but he actually didn't have a lot to do.
No, he didn't. No, you're right.
It's a really weird one. He
Yeah.
conceded 4 goals, and 4 goals that really he couldn't do much about. But other than that, he had hardly anything to do. So it'd be interesting to see how he performs against Villa, and you know, he's going to get the next 2 or 3 games for sure.
Just a quick one as well. I know you popped on at half time on the match day, but didn't really get to ask. You just mentioned it when your previous guest said that there's been a lot of talk obviously about the fans being back in and all that. Do you think, you know? I just can't see it myself because I personally think you're too stubborn. I don't see if we go on say a 4 or 5 losing streak that, you know, the fans are going to turn, and perhaps they might turn, but it won't like sort of, you know, force them out, if that makes sense. Do you think? Or...
It takes Mike Ashley a lot to pull the trigger. We saw that by Steve McLaren. You know, he never had to really make the decision with Rafa Benitez because Benitez made the decision himself that he was going to leave. It's going to take a lot for him to make that decision. We saw that last season where we were calling for his head for a long time and he didn't. The one thing I'll say is that the fans can create additional pressure. And with the fans creating additional pressure, we'll then bring it to the forefront in the media. And when it does that, and you've got, if you're going on a run of games that are not very good, and you've got 52,000 fans baying for the manager to go and really get him on his back, that could force him into a decision. Yeah. And we've got to remember, although we probably don't want to talk about it, but we've still got a potential takeover of this club that could still go through. And we talk about this phrase of protecting his asset, and he's still got to think about that in what he does.
But this is what I mean. Yeah.
He may need to make that decision at some point. Look, I hope he doesn't have to make that decision. You know, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Bruce, I actually hope that Bruce is still in the job. And by that, I mean that he's still in the job because he's winning matches. Because ultimately, me, you know, Chris, that's all we care about is Newcastle winning matches.
Yeah, just winning matches.
On the board, getting us up the table. Yeah. That's all we care about. So I hope it doesn't have to come to that, but the pressure of the fans being back in the stadium, I think, does add an extra 25% onto the pressure that's put on the manager, but also the players as well.
It's just the reason why I said that is because, you know, obviously we all think that he's just washed hands with the club. You know, he sold the club last year, and you just don't. You know, I want Bruce gone, but you don't want happening is bringing in someone just equally as bad or worse. So I'm just trying to think realistic. There's been rumours about, you know, John Terry and people like that. That is probably, to be as stupid as it sounds. Is it realistic? I mean, do you think, because he's had no management experience, is he? So I don't know. It's just a strange one, isn't it?
Be a big risk. Very big risk.
Yeah.
I want him nowhere near this club.
No, definitely not.
Kevin, as always, mate, it's an absolute pleasure to see you. Yeah. Thank you very much, mate.
We'll see you on the match day shows again.
I know.
At some point in our next game, whenever that is.
Do you know what, Kevin? I was just going to say I'm going to play this short little video for you because this was me and you at the end of Match Day Live. We were fuming, mate. We were fuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
But listen, mate, pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it.
Just before he goes, I just want to put it on here because I think it's very, very fitting.
I know what you're going to do.
Steve,
the legend is back.
Hey. Kira's back. I love it.
Back. You haven't mentioned the hair then, Steve.
Judy Baker.
I know everyone was loving this Kieran's hair, weren't they? At the weekend.
Got the light on now.
There he is.
There he is.
Like that one.
That's it. I love it.
Kevin, pleasure, mate. Really good seeing you.
Boys.
And look forward to the next match.
Yeah. See you later on.
Take care. Thanks, mate. Great to have Kevin on, Pete.
Always. Great
Love
guy.
Caden. Love Caden.
Great guy.
Listen.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, mate, I noticed, I've seen Julie pop up in the chat there. Everyone knows how much I love Julie. Julie, this one's for you. I don't know if Steve's going to like it, but I'm going to have to do it because I know you love it. I had to do that. I seen it in the thing.
You know what?
Julie,
When I watch the Fab Four every week, when that comes on, that's what I do, just instinctively.
See, people's doing that in the background, by the way, while I was playing.
I was doing it, and like whenever I'm doing that, and my daughter walks by, she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I just can't help but do that.
The cat.
Brilliant. Some great comments in the chat. As always, we start with Kelly Ranson. People say 10 games for Bruce will show how we are doing, but this is the easy start to the season and the most teams have. So if we don't have points on the board after 5 games, then I think we're in trouble. Great point. And you know what? We talked about it with Seb as well. Seb made the great point about our first 6 games. So it will. You know, apart from the Old Trafford game that Seb mentioned, which we don't expect anything from, all the other games in and around it are games where we can pick up points 100% with the squad that we've got right now. And we could add to that in the next few weeks. So, yeah, I agree with that. Thing with Fraser is he'll never get a good win in the team. See, this is the problem.
It feels that way.
It really does. And I believe with his, you know, he was... A few years ago, he was the highest assister in the Premier League. You know, he's the creative spark that we could need for our front line. And I just think he needs a run in the game. If he's going to prove himself, he needs a run of 4, 5, 6 games to show that he's capable of playing in this system, in this team. And if he never gets that, then we can't really get on his back because he's not had the opportunity to be shown. He can't just play in the cup games and coming off the bench. It's not the same. So, great point. Steve would love Rondon back. I think we all would. Love Rondon when he was there. Proper number 9. Him and Wilson together.
Yeah.
Jesus,
or even just the backup. Imagine him just coming off the bench.
He bully teams. He would bully teams even now. Interesting one. Mad Mark. I take Musa Sissoko back on loan. He has been told he can leave Tottenham. Interestingly, he has been told he can leave Tottenham. Chris is shaking his head.
Do you know what? Mad Mark, I've always got to be careful the way I say that. But, you know, listen, Mark, I totally take your point about the legs in midfield. I think you're absolutely right, but I thought his attitude stunk. And to be honest, I don't think he's a very good footballer. And I'm quite surprised that he's had the career he's had after us, you know, getting in that French squad and playing for Tottenham. I'm very surprised. Me personally, I wouldn't have him, but maybe if he was free and his attitude was better, maybe.
On a loan, I think he could give something. I was really angry at him the way he left.
Yeah,
and
I was.
He down tools for us. But you know, he's got the attributes that could make a difference to this team.
Pete, have you seen that picture of him? I think it was the pre-season picture. You know, then they do like the face, you know, of the players, you know, for the pre-season. Have you seen the picture of Sissoko when he's like that?
I've not seen it.
Mate, I'll have to send you it. He's fuming. He's absolutely raging, and you can tell it's because he never got his transfer. It's so funny.
I need to get that one in. Martin Colley, Hendricks for Davis. I don't think Rafa Benitez would do that personally. I've got to be honest. But that's the only way I'd take Davis in our
I'd take Davis for that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, slight upgrade.
Definitely, just a slight one. Steve with a well done, Seb.
Yeah,
absolutely spot on. Keith as well. Great rant, Seb. Seb was spot on. Keith as well. Again, where's the Avon ad? Julie was always.
I didn't have it ready, Julie. I'll have to get it added, won't I?
Definitely. Yano, if we need a defensive midfielder, what about Yokshulu, who was on loan at West Brom last season? You know what? It's not a bad shout, you know.
I reckon it'd be okay.
He was that midfield enforcer, and that was what Sam Allardyce brought in. Yeah, he'd be. I'm just.
Mate, I was waiting for the comments to come in then.
Brilliant. Interesting. What about Ross Barkley? He's not even got a squad number at Chelsea.
Wow.
He didn't get a squad number.
Didn't know that.
So that says a lot, to be honest. But again, he's an attacking midfielder. If you've brought Willock in and you've got Fraser and you've got Almiron, is there really space for him in the team? I don't know. There's a couple more just before we get our next guest on. Was that the highest possession we've had in 2 years, 41.7% from wasn't the worst game I've seen under Bruce, and something to build on, hopefully. Okay,
It's a good point from George.
Yeah, take over George with great points.
That first half was decent. I didn't want to change the team second half, but trouble was, after about the 50-minute onwards, it just went downhill, didn't it?
It did. I was massively worried. A couple more here, Chad. Don't think we'll sign a striker. My ideal world would be Kamara, Kajuji, and a centre back, a midfield three of Willock. Kajuji and Kamara has bags of potential, and the one thing we are missing, energy. Great point. We need to get some of this deadwood out of the squad that's been there since the championship. We need to move some players on and refresh the team. And with young, energetic players, I think, Chad's hit the nail on the head with his points there. And then Dino, is our biggest worry this season injuries? As we all know, with some of our best players, it isn't a case of if, but when.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? We're all waiting for Callum Wilson to pull up. I mean, no one wants to see it, but is Callum Wilson going to play 38 games this season? Probably not. And that's the concern, really, isn't it? If we lose him during a vital period, Pete, trouble's afoot.
It is. It's been well documented that there's a history of injury there with some of our better players. And honestly, I think that's why at 80 odd minutes, that's why I took Callum Wilson off. He said, right, the game's done in his mind. Let's save him for Aston Villa. Let's not create any needless problems. And I think that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people are calling for a proper backup striker. So we don't have to feel like we have to do that. Or if we are taking him off, we're bringing someone capable on. Interesting one, that.
Yeah, very interesting. Right, I think it's time for our fourth and final guest.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Hello, good evening,
how are you, mate?
Guys. How are you? All good, all good, all good.
Mate,
shame about the result yesterday, but it is what it is. That's football, as I say.
It is, mate. It is.
Yeah, I'm on here today. Obviously, everybody's made great points about the match, but my sole reason for coming on is the old dreaded word of financial fair play. Right. Okay. That, to me, is just, it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. It's just a name to me. Because what I'm seeing now is, in modern football, is that it's a case of the haves and the have-nots. And what we're seeing is the have-nots, unfortunately, Bury being an example, are struggling, whereas the haves are rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. And I'm sure when the Premier League first came to fruition back in just before the 92-93 season, that was a major sticking point, an argument that people were making was that the big rich clubs are going to get richer. Case in point, 100 million quid for Grealish. Okay, look, everybody's got their own opinions on that. Transfer fees have gone, through the roof, across the board. I mean, I don't know if you two are old enough, but I'm old enough to remember when 1 million quid, i.e. Trevor Francis, it was like, eye popping. But now 1 million quid is what, like somebody's week's wages now, isn't it? Obviously, inflation and all that. So, financial fair play rules really need a good look at. And also this thing about states owning clubs. I think somebody mentioned that on Sky. Okay. Now, isn't this something where legislation should come in as, be tightened up as to states, how much of a club a state can own? Because let's face it, Man City, I think Pardew mentioned it, it's basically a case of they are financed by a whole nation, aren't they? To be able to afford the transfer fees etc., that they're paying out at the moment. Yeah. Likewise, PSG.
Yeah.
And these states owning football clubs are slowly draining the soul of football, which is not good. That's the long-term thing. And we are going to lose generations of fans if this continues. So basically, you know, it probably won't happen because that talks, but this is something that needs thinking about, you know, if you want to save the game, because La Liga has been mortgaged, doesn't it? They've been sold to the devil, haven't they, basically? And they're in trouble. So, you know,
yeah,
as the song goes, there may be trouble ahead. So that's what I'll say. But
I think you're absolutely right, Donald, and you raise a really good point. And I think this has been going on for a while now, hasn't it? I mean, we all remember when Neymar made the move. Was it from Barcelona to PSG? And it was like 200 million.
Yeah.
That's where you kind of thought, hang on, where's this glass ceiling? When's this going to stop? Because it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you do wonder when it's going to break, don't you? Because unfortunately, it's not just Neymar moving to PSG for that amount of money. It's the knock-on effect that it has, because you've then got players who are the next level down or 2 levels down, and then they're saying to clubs who want to buy their players, well, he's gone for 200 million. My player's worth at least 120 million if he's worth 200 million, and so on and so forth. And it just raises everything, doesn't it? And it does make you wonder when, you know, someone will get involved, some authorities, and say, listen, you know, it's going to have to be capped. I mean, it's happened in China already, hasn't it? China have realised, you know, that paying the likes of Arnautovic 350 grand a week just doesn't work. And, you know, the players are now starting to leave China. But really, we could do with that in our own league. And also, if it would mean, again, talking about knock-on effects, if it would mean that the match day experience was more affordable for fans, surely that would be a better thing for the clubs. They wouldn't have to fork out all these wages. They wouldn't have to fork out all of these transfers, signing on fees. Agents are just laughing all the way to the bank, aren't they? Because these transfer fees are getting bigger and the agents' cuts getting bigger. Some agents won't even get out of bed for 20 million for a transfer. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it's ludicrous. I mean, Pete, what are your thoughts on what Donald's had to say there, and raised a really good point?
I love the point that you've raised, and it's something very, very different to what we've already discussed on the show. The first thing is that, look, the state ownership's already here. It's been here 10 years plus with PSG and with Man City. The only question I throw out there is that if they're okay to be in there, then why can't PIF?
Exactly. We want ours.
It's as simple as that. And this has been the age-old question for the last year and a bit, is that, okay, they've got an issue with PIF coming into the Premier League, but you've already allowed Man City's owners to come in there, and we've already got in European football the Qatari own PSG, who are not just owning PSG, but effectively owning UEFA now, because they're at the head of the table. They are the head of the table.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing now, where they effectively control European football, and you know that's the question. It's a really, really difficult situation that we're in, is because, you know, we want our takeover so much, but yet, you know, we look at what's going on around us and we think it's not good, and it is ultimately ruining football. It is, because and certainly from a lower perspective, in terms of what's happening in the lower regions of football, you know, you look at the lower part of the Championship, League 1, League 2, and non-league football. It's having a massive effect on how things are being ran, and people are scared for their livelihood, scared for their clubs to stay in existence. It's a really weird one. I don't know if you guys know about the Neymar situation, but the Neymar situation, when he was at Barcelona actually tried to sign Thiago Silva from PSG, and PSG made a point and were very, very clear that if you try and sign Thiago Silva, we're going to buy Neymar out of his contract. And Barcelona carried on and tried to get the deal done with Thiago Silva, PSG shut that down, and the next summer went out and bought.
Wow! Didn't know that, Pete. Didn't know that.
It's all about that, you know.
They pre-warned them and said, if you do this, we're going to go and buy. I mean, imagine having 200 plus million to just go and like absolutely throw it away on one player. But they did it, and that was the biggest power play that I think I've seen in football.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree.
The balls to do that, but look, football's a money-driven world right now, and it's a very, very difficult place if you're in a position where you haven't got the money, or you haven't got the owners that have got the money, or want to put the money into a club. And we're certainly one of them, whereas we've got an owner that's got the money but not willing to put it in. So it's a really difficult position that we're in right now.
Absolutely. I mean, do you think this, pots of money that are thrown, do you think that will come to an end at some point? Will there be a, or do you think it'll just get out of control even further? Or
I think it's got to reach a point. It's got to reach a point. I mean, we're already starting to see that now, Donald, aren't we? With Barcelona, they're looking in serious trouble, and I think it will have a knock-on effect. I think other clubs are going to start to feel that way. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that more lower league clubs in England haven't folded. I'm obviously really pleased about that. It's really great, obviously with what was going on with COVID, but they've managed to stay afloat, which is great. But I think sooner or later, that glass ceiling I was talking about, it's gonna, there's only so much, and there's going to come a point where people just go, right, no more.
Yeah, I agree.
The silly thing is, Donald, as well, sorry, just to add, the silly thing is, you've got these players who are on 200, 300, 400 grand a week. If you turn around to them next week and said, sorry, there's now going to be a new capping rule, the most you can be on as an elite player, or whatever they want to call them, is 50 grand a week. They're not going to walk away from football and go, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go and be a gardener, or I'm going to go and be a solicitor. It's not going to happen, is it? They'll have to suck it up and get on with it. And unfortunately, you just hope that there's people out there who would be willing to do that. The powers that be. But unfortunately, it's benefiting them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the current situation that I've seen happening, happening with, say, Inter Milan and all that, it reminds me somewhat of there's a documentary called, I think, is it Once Upon a Time or something? We know when the NASL started, with Pele and Franz Beckenbauer. I mean, obviously, that at that time there was a guy from, I think, Time Warner or something, who shed loads of money into the NASL, and then that league eventually folded. Our own Peter Beardsley played in that league as well, of course. But it seems to be that sort of scenario.
Yeah, it feels that.
It's got that sort of feeling about it, But as I say, I mean, as long as we're alive, I think we'll still love our football. But the big money is one of those issues that we do feel we have an opinion on it. Obviously, we've discussed it here, but ultimately, it's out of our hands. It's
out of our hands, mate. Absolutely. Pete, sorry, do you want to jump in there, mate?
I'll just leave you with a point. And I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard this somewhere that Jeff Hendricks is on more money than David Ginola was on when he was at Newcastle United.
Oh dear, man.
You need to know about the current climate in professional football at the moment, that our very own David Ginola at Newcastle United was on less money than what Jeff Hendricks is currently on at this football club right now. I thought I'd just leave you with that point.
But
you know what, Pete? Oh, sorry, go on, Donald.
Yeah, but I bet you Jeff Hendrick couldn't pull as many birds as David Ginola.
Great point.
Yeah,
he had the big market at his knees. Literally in those 90s. He had the big market at his knees when he went out there.
Yes. Legend David Ginola.
Absolutely.
But, Donald, once again, mate, thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime.
Especially for waiting, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, yeah. Actually, you know what it was? I forgot. I was looking. I thought, how do I get on here again? And then I clicked through YouTube, and because I was expecting a direct message. I thought, no, you go the other way. But anyway, I found it. But
Donald. Really appreciate you coming on, mate. You'll have to come on future shows as well. And Donald, this one's for you. This is you to Richard Masters, okay?
Okay.
That's us wanting our
yeah,
takeover.
that's me. That's me. Right,
That's
thanks,
all of
lads.
us.
Thanks.
Richard
Yeah.
Masterson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah.
Donald, all the best, mate. Catch up soon.
Ultimate. Yeah. Cheers, mate. Yeah. Nice one.
Take care.
Cheers.
What a show. We've overrun 10 minutes, people. We were enjoying it too much there, weren't we?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Great points by everybody. When there's great points and lots of different points, I love Donnell's point that he made about the FIFA Fair Play, because I think it's a great point to talk about, and not a lot of people are talking about it enough right now in football.
Yeah.
So great points, and when you've got great points, you just want to keep talking about it. So absolutely fair play. I'll just run through one or two last comments. The legend that is Tom Dixon, we just need a few loan signings in, hopefully. I agree with you, and I think they will come at some point. Funko, Freddy and Co. Spurs must have a new number 9 lined up if Sissoko leaves. He's on big wages, and then with Kane away, will free up a lot of money. I actually don't think Kane's going to leave in this window. I don't think he will. I think they want another midfielder, if I'm honest.
Did you not make anything of his absence at the weekend, Pete? You know, with him not being in the squad or even in the stadium by the sounds of it? Did you not feel that was significant? Or
he'd only had one training session since he'd been back.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Willett, for example. Willett could have been registered, and I was very, very mindful of the fact that he was signed, officially on the Friday. I think they could have registered him. I think they've chosen not to give him a week's full of training so he's ready for the Villa game. And I think Kane, with all the Man City talk around it, it was better for him just not being
to be away.
Game. And I think he'll come back in, but I don't think he'll leave. If I'm honest with you, I think he's going to stay one more year with a guarantee that next summer he's going to leave the club. If Tottenham don't get top 4, that's my opinion on it. To be honest, Tom Dixon again. Would you take Jack Wilshere as a free agent, Chris? What do you think?
Do you know what? I may have done a little while ago, but I think he's been out of it too much now. I've seen it. Well, I've seen him more times on like spin-off telly shows than I have playing football, and that would be a concern for me. I wonder whether his head's turned and he's now thought, you know what? I've made me money. It's not worked out. I might venture into doing something else. I think I've seen him playing golf with somebody on the telly, and I was thinking, I wonder whether football's really a passion for him or not now. Because surely, if it was, he'd have been signed up in the pre-season by somebody. Somebody would have took a shot on him. Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't take him. Unfortunately, it sounds horrible to say, but I think he's finished at the top end now. I think Championship is probably the level or below, in my opinion. Funko Freddy, I'd take Barkley and I would drop Shelby. Simple as that. Great point. They're not the same, not playing the same roles, but look, as a player, I'd have him in the squad without a doubt. But it's who would you play him for? But it'd be a nice problem to have. Great point here from Paul Kinson. Wilson should be captain. The points that he's made so far in the summer in these interviews, you wouldn't argue against him being captain. Would you agree with that, Paul? Chris, sorry.
Yeah, I think we flagged this, didn't we? When on Loaded Mag, when we were talking about the comments that Wilson came out with, and we were saying, I think it was me who said that it really sounded like something a captain would say. And to me, I just thought this smacks of someone who's a leader, and we don't have all too many of those, do we? So
yeah,
I don't see why not.
Definitely. Keith Rowe, great points, Donald. La Liga's finished. I agree. La Liga is finished. Top 3, Atletico, Real Madrid, Barca. In mega debt, power shifters moved away from the Liga, and that Ronaldo and Messi have left. That was their cash cow. Ronaldo and Messi. Now they've both gone. There is no interest in that at all. And then we've got Keith. Great show, Chris and Pete. Thank you for the banter. Top man. Again, with Keith. Great show. Thank you.
Cheers,
for that, Keith. Cheers, Steve. Great show.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it. I'm glad you, of all people, enjoyed it.
I know, yeah.
But no.
Steve just wrote shit show, lads.
Yeah. And Kenny as well. Great show, Chris. Please, mate.
Thanks, Kenny.
Nice to meet you in London, Chris. I think you met him in London.
Yeah. I do remember meeting Kenny in London. Yeah, Kenny, big shout out to you, mate. Hopefully see it again soon.
Definitely. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. We've gone 15 minutes over, but it's not bad for the first one. We're a bit rusty, aren't we, Pete? We haven't ranted for a while.
Mate, when you've got great viewers or great people coming on the show,
This
what
is
it's all
it, mate.
about.
This is it. This is it. But anyway, Pete, thank you very much for coming on and joining me as the host. I think you're gonna have a go next week, aren't you? We'll have to top and tail it if you're up for it.
We'll give it a go. Why not?
Why not? Let's do it. But yeah, listen. Thank you everyone for watching at home. Really appreciate it. And next week, if you fancy coming on, please come and give it a go. We're off. Let's go, Pete.
I'm off. Take care.
See you later. Thanks, everyone.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna